Hello my dear friends, welcome to my channel. Today we will going to discuss about one of the most important question that is being asked in almost 90% of Java interviews. And that question is, what is the difference between method overloading and method overriding in Java programming language? So let us discuss the difference between method overloading and method overriding first on the basis of definition and program. So in method overloading we can define multiple methods in a class, and those methods are having same name and can perform differently based on the arguments which we are passing to our methods. Whereas in case of method overriding, it always occurs between the classes, which follows is a relationship in Java. So in method overriding we provide the specific implementation of a method in a child class which is already defined in our parent class. Now let us try to understand the difference between method overloading and method overriding by the help of program. So my dear friends, here you can see that we have defined two methods in our method overloading class, and these methods are having same name and we are passing different parameters to our methods. Let me run our program. So here you can see that we are getting different results on the basis of number of parameters which we are passing to our methods. Now in case of method overriding, here you can see that I am having two classes, parent class and child class is extending the parent class. In parent class I have defined a method with the name getMessage, and I am not satisfied with this method and I have to change its implementation in my child class, so I can define different implementation of our getMessage method in our child class. So this concept is known as method overriding. Now let us discuss our second difference. So method overloading is also known as compile time polymorphism, static polymorphism and early binding, whereas in case of method overriding it is also known as runtime polymorphism, late binding and dynamic polymorphism. Now let us discuss our next difference on the basis of uses. So method overloading is used to improve the readability of our program, whereas in case of method overriding, if we are not satisfied with the implementation of a method which is provided by our parent class, then in that case we can provide the specific implementation of the parent class method in our child class. Now let us understand our next difference on the basis of scope of operation. So in case of method overloading, all the overloaded method is always present in the same class, whereas method overriding always takes place with those classes which follows is a relationship in Java, or they are having parent and child relationship. Now our next difference is on the basis of method resolution. So in case of method overloading, method call is always taken care by compiler on the basis of reference type, whereas in case of method overriding, method call is decided by JVM on the basis of runtime object. So when I'm running my program, so here you can see that we are getting an output from our child method, that is our JVM is calling the methods on the basis of runtime object and not on the basis of reference type. Now our next difference is on the basis of method name. So in case of method overloading, all the methods which we are overloading should always have same name. Also in case of method overriding, method name of our overridden method and overriding method should be same in parent class and child class. Now our next difference is on the basis of argument types or parameters which we are passing to our methods. So in case of method overloading, the parameters or arguments which we are passing to our methods should be different, whereas in case of method overriding, the parameters which we are passing to our overridden method and overriding method should be same. Now our next difference is on the basis of return type. So in case of method overloading, there is no restriction on return type, that is different methods which we are overloading can return different values, whereas in case of method overriding, if our return type is primitive, then it should be same in both overridden method and overriding method. Let me change it to long. So here you can see that we are getting compile time error, that is this return type is incompatible. So when our return type is primitive, it should be same in both parent class method and child class method, whereas if our return type is non-primitive, then in that case covariant return type is allowed, that is the method in a child class can either have same return type as that of the parent class, or it can return the child class of the return type which we are having in our overridden method, but it cannot return the superclass of the return type of our overridden method. So here object is a superclass of parent class. That is why it is not allowed in our overriding method. Now our next difference is on the basis of private, static and final methods. So in case of overloading, we can overload static, final and private methods, whereas in case of method overriding, we cannot override static, final and private methods. That is why we are getting compile time error, and it is saying that we cannot override final methods. Now our next difference is on the basis of access modifiers. So in case of method overloading, there is no restriction on access modifier. That is, our access specifiers can be different in our different overloaded methods. So we can use any access specifier, that is public, private, protected or default. Whereas in case of method overriding, we cannot reduce the scope of our access specifier in child class. So here in our parent class, the access specifier is protected, and here we have increased the access specifier in our child class method to public. But we cannot reduce it in our child class overridden method. So here my access specifier in child class overriding method is default, and in my parent class it is protected. That is why it is giving us compile time error. Now our next difference is on the basis of exceptions thrown by our methods. So in case of method overloading, there is no restrictions on exceptions thrown by our methods, that is they can be different in our overloaded method. So here my first area method is throwing null pointer exception, and my second area method is throwing arithmetic exception. Whereas in case of method overriding, if our overridden method is not throwing any exception, then our overridden method can throw an unchecked exception. So here null pointer exception is a type of unchecked exception in Java, and if our method is not throwing any exception, then in that case we cannot throw checked exception in our overriding method. And if method in parent class is throwing any checked exception, then in that case we can either throw the same exception, or we cannot throw any exception, but we cannot throw the exception which is the parent class of the exception of our overridden method. So here exception is a superclass of our file not found exception. That is why we are getting compile time error. So my dear friends, hope you are able to understand all the difference between method overloading and method overriding in Java programming language. If you like the content of this video, then do like, comment and subscribe my channel and click the bell icon for latest updates.